Welcome to our Safety Champion BootChamp Beyond the Core Modules. Now, this was done earlier in the year around February with Craig, and my presentation is going to be similar but a little bit different. So what I'd really like from everybody that's participating today, as we move through the modules, if you would like to ask a question or you have something specific that we're discussing right there and then, I'd love you guys to yell out and we can actually show you live anything that you need to see. So just bear with me while I try and close down whatever's going on here. Righto, we'll just move. I'm just not sure what's happening with the video, but anyway. So today what we're going to have a look at is a quick system overview. We'll look at the architecture, to explain the architecture of the system. We will look at the dashboard, and then we'll go into those modules that aren't our core modules. And when we speak about core modules, they are our incidents, actions, inspections, safety plans, and as well as HR and training. So we won't step into those modules. Those modules are generally the ones that everyone is using most of the time and has a pretty good understanding around. So we're going to actually move towards the modules that that we see and things that we engage with in the system. Our vision and mission and values, we want to see a world where no one's hurt at work ever. Now, I'm a safety or, an ex-safety consultant, I guess, from years ago, and now in the software space. And I really like to help our customers to achieve a really safe workplace with these software systems in place. We strive to make our safety accessible and easy for everyone, no matter their experience and expertise. So our software that we've developed is really developed for ease of use for the workers and the employees in your organisation. So move through. So here's our system overview. So our system's designed, our software is designed to run on any platform that you use. So your desktop, your laptop, your iOS or Android, Apple, tablet or phone. And it can also work, it can also work offline. So if you've got people in a regional area or in where there's not a lot of coverage, they can still go ahead and report incidents and actions and view the documentations and registers that are allocated to their workplace. So as you're all aware, or hopefully you're all aware, our system is tiered. So we have, as you can see up the top here, this red box is our organisational administration. So that is for the administrators of the system. So that is the people that can morph up to the configuration area. We can set our terminology, our categories, subcategories. We can put in custom questions around the system and our modules and really tailor it specifically for our organisation. This level here, the organisation level, this is where you would create things like inspections, you would create things like safety plans, we would load our documentation and we would build our registers at this organisation level. And then we're able to share that by allocating it to workplaces. So we can allocate to individual workplaces or multiple workplaces. So an example might be if we've got a chemical register within our organisation, we can create that register at this organisation level. So the management of those chemicals, the SDSs, and all the associated information sits with the organisation. And then we can share down to whichever of our workplaces that need to be able to view those particular chemicals. So what that means is you're going to have workplaces that may not use chemicals. So we don't have to, allocate chemicals to that particular workplace. But these other workplaces, they may be heavy users of chemicals or they might have specific requirements to their workplace. So we can allocate those things to that workplace. The workplace level here sits independently. So this workplace does not see, tasks and registers from the workplace that sits beside it. but it all has a view from the organisation down. And then again, in that worker level, these are the people on the ground. These are the people that just need to be able to report an incident, report an action, a risk or a hazard, and maybe be able to view some of those registers or documents or chemicals or contractors that we have allocated to that workplace. So as you can see, it's a bit of a parent-child flow here. So if I'm a worker in a particular workplace, I only see the tasks that my workplace has assigned to me directly. I only see the registers and information that the workplace or the organisation has allocated to my workplace. So if there's any questions, please use the Q&A to be able to ask questions. So we're going to go into our modules. So modules by things. In our system, we've got things that we report. So they're the actions and incidents and hazards, things that we do, such as inspections and safety plans. So that'll be like your meetings, your pre-starts, your workplace walkarounds, those types of things. Things that you see, so these are the ones that we're actually going to look at today. Things that we see are chemical registers, corporate risk, documents library, equipment and assets, insurance and registrations, and our training. Our training sits in with the human resources, and so we're going to treat that as a core module today and probably not look at it heavily. So, and then our things that we engage with are our communications module, our contractors, our data analytics, notice board, and site attendance. So in these the functionality of these modules is that if we are creating a chemical or a risk item or a document, we create that task, or we create that item, and then it will sit where it's created. So if we create at that organisation level and then allocate to the workplace, those items are able to be viewed by the workplace. They're not managed by the workplace unless they're actually created at that workplace level. And when we speak about tasks being created at workplaces, that means that is owned by the workplace. Other workplaces don't have visibility there and cannot share between workplaces. So when we create at the organisation, it allows us to share downwards. So we're managing one record as opposed to managing multiple workplace records. I'm going to jump into the chemical module. So chemical module allows us to build a register of chemicals used in our organisation. We're able to allocate chemicals to workplaces, as I was discussing before, and those workplaces are able to view the chemicals and the associated SDSs for those chemicals. Now, if we create those at the organisation level, the workplace will be able to put in their own quantities and locations. So we can set those things up so that the actual workplace itself can manage those chemicals. And we can edit the volume at the workplace and location at the workplace level as well. So I'm going to just jump into the chemical module. So we go to chemicals here. Our chemical list is where we would build that chemical, those chemicals out. So as you can see here, there's a list of chemicals. You will see, how many locations they've been assigned to from this particular register. And then as we move across, you can see the due date of that chemical, the SDS attachment there. If we open up that SDS attachment, you can, oh, that's not actually what I want. Hold on. Sorry about this. Not sure why that's not letting me out. Sorry, guys. Oh, gosh.
Is that the presentation, Kat? Maybe you can just reduce the size and then it will let you out
And
if
just,
you need
it's
to
not
change
actually
the
letting
slide.
me, so get out of here. So where am I going?
Is this the presentation? Because if this
Well,
is the
this should have been
presentation.
my safety champion.
Oh, okay, so can you use the arrow next to the home
Yeah, it's just
icon?
not
Yeah.
letting me. I've got no option to do that.
Okay.
Why is
And
it?
can you open like a new Windows, Cat? Because I can see that the URL, it's a bit weird. So maybe
Yeah.
yes, it looks like a different server.
Yeah. So what have I done wrong?
Just open a new tab in the browser. Yeah. Just close that one and open a new tab in the browser.
Okay. Oh, maybe it's this. It's opened up there. That's what it's done.
Yeah.
Now it's hiding. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right.
All right. Let's see if we can find one that's actually got an SDS attached. Here we go. So that's your safety data sheet. Sorry, it was hiding up behind that bar that I had up there. So it'll open up your SDS in a separate screen. If you're working from your phone, you will also see the SDS attachment as well if you click straight onto it. And then the allocation, you can see here from the allocation that if they're allocated to workplaces or they're allocated to the organisation or if they're not allocated at all. So when we build this chemical list, our chemicals can be easily allocated to, just let me get this out of the way, easily allocated to workplaces within our organisation. So we have the ability to select individual workplaces, or if you've got an organisation with a lot more workplaces, you can select all, or you can select the multiple workplaces and then do a bulk allocation to them. So when you allocate that chemical to those workplaces will then be able to set their own quantities. So we can have that ability as well, but the workplaces themselves will be able to do that themselves as well. So if we look at that particular chemical that's been allocated to, we go back over here, our chemical list, and we look at that chemical there that's been allocated to the warehouse. If we morph down to the warehouse or to, we'll go allocate it to Brisbane. So if it's allocated to Brisbane, we can go into that chemical register and manage our quantities. So we can go into that and edit the locations and the quantities there for those locations. So we can say, well, we've got this chemical in the kitchen as well, and we have, 100 litres of it, and our maximum literage might be 200 litres. Now, if you put less than what our quantity that we have in as our maximum, it will flag to say that's incorrect, that we must have more than what the actual quantity that we're holding. So it will let you know if you're making, a mistake, or it'll alert you to something that's happening within those quantities. So if we just allow a maximum of 200, and we can add that to the location. Your chemicals will also have evidence around sign off. So if we've got chemicals in the system and they're being signed off. So when we add a chemical to the register, I'll just show you how to do that. So with the chemical list, it's as easy as adding a chemical here. So we would put our chemical name in here, and you might put so this is a name that we would refer to it as within our organisation. So that makes it easy for the workers in our organisation to find the chemicals that are in the system. It might have a proper shipping name that is completely different to what we refer to it as. Supplier name, emergency contact, and purpose of the chemicals. We can then have our preset locations put into here. In the configuration, which we'll show you later in the presentation, we'll be able to show you where we can set those locations in for workplaces. You can then put information off your SDS into the system. So if we have a GHS classification, we'll be able to go through and pick out what it is and add those to it. So there's already sort of some preset hazard statements in there that are sort of universal across chemicals. So you can use the information that's already in there to build out your SDS record. And then obviously, is the chemical hazardous? Is it dangerous? Has a risk assessment been completed? If a risk assessment's been completed, then we can upload that file to this record as well. Again, all this information is direct off of the SDS itself. So you can refer to your SDSs and really build out this register. You can then update your SDS, upload your SDS PDF to this record, and we would take the issue date of the SDS off that record and place it into here, which will then automatically set a due date for the review of this SDS to 5 years. So once you've done that, that would then become a task on your organisational dashboard. So in 5 years' time, there'll be a task that comes up to review this particular chemical. And then you can submit that and allocate it to the workplaces that it's applicable to straight away, or just add it to your register by clicking submit, and we can worry about allocating it to workplaces later. Within the chemical list, you can easily export your chemicals. If you've got chemicals that are no longer in use, they can be archived rather than deleting. You can archive these things. So let's say we've got rid of a particular chemical, we can set it on our archive register. And then if we reinstate it later on, we can grab it back out of the archive and utilize that chemical again. So that's as easy as clicking on the green little archive, enable icon, and that'll bring it back to your active chemical register. Once they're allocated, you'll be able to use these other 2 tabs to get the list of the workplace chemicals and the organisation chemicals. So if it's been allocated to a workplace, you'll be able to see the yellow dots will be where it's been allocated to the workplace from the organisation. And these that are green mean that they're workplace owned. So that means that where are we at? Sydney workplace has actually created some chemicals within their own workplace environment. Again, if you don't want the workplaces to be responsible for building that register or adding, items to that register, those permissions can be changed in the configuration level as well. So you can see here that acetone is the chemical that has been loaded, or that at the workplace level. So you can see here, they're able to manage that. They're able to archive it. They're able to delete it. They're able to view it, and they will have the responsibility to renew that record when it comes due as well. And these other ones, they can view the information, but they don't have any management responsibility over those. Your chemical list can be very easily exported. So if we're in a workplace environment and we want to print out our register and have a hard copy of it, you can just go to your workplace. If I was sitting at Melbourne, in the office at Melbourne, I can export my chemical register and have it displayed there if I need to. Okay. I think that covers our chemicals. Documents module. So we'll move into the documents module. There's some good news in this documents module. So with our documents, it's sort of the same. It's the same deal with our hierarchy. If we're going to upload our management system or our safe work instructions or policies and procedures, we can do it at the organisation level and then allocate to workplaces. So workplaces will have the ability to view those documents, use them as reference, get their safe work instructions easily, And from your app, you can also access the documents. So from this slide, you can see that you can view documents if that's available for the workers, and it'll either be in a folder view or a list view. So this folder view, I think many of you will remember this being available on our desktop view as well. So that will be coming back at some stage. We can manage all sorts of documents here, policies and procedures, safe operating procedures, operational templates, sort of anything that you can imagine to be in your management system. And then also other documents outside safety as well. So you can set up categories and subcategories for documentation within your organisation that you can easily store and share on Safety Champion. And documents can also be embedded into inspections, and they can also be linked to the notice boards, which we'll cover later. The inspections, as it's one of our core modules, we won't be covering that today, but within a inspection template, we can actually link a document from our system directly to there. And the beauty about that is when we update a document in the system or we renew a version, that will automatically renew through the templates that they're connected to. So there's no need to have to go into those templates and update the documents. That link will ensure that you've got the most current version of documents that are linked to those inspections. I'll move into the documents module now. All right. So here we have our documents. So this is a list that has been uploaded into the system. So they're our organisational documents. And again, we can allocate them. So similarly to the chemical module, you can allocate those. They're either workplace owned or organisational owned. And it'll also tell you whether they've got a review schedule on there as well. Workplace documents. So these ones have been allocated to a workplace or they've been uploaded by workplaces, sorry. So they're actually owned by workplaces, and you can see what workplaces these have been uploaded at. So if we look at our documents themselves, if we look at this policy here, you can see it's allocated to Melbourne and allocated to Sydney. And this is version 1. So if we look at this record itself, and the PDF's uploaded there as well. So we can look at the details of this document and see the attachment really easily and quickly. We can then go to the version. So we can see that this is the first version that's been uploaded. And obviously there'll be no history with it here. So let's go and find one that's got some history attached. So let's see, this one here. If we look at a procedure, see that's got a lot of versions. So let's hope there's some history on here. So this is a procedure, drug and alcohol procedure, and there's a version. These are the versions that have been uploaded. So you can see that this is the original version 1 draft, and then over time they've been updated and reviewed and new versions have been added. So the beauty with the document module is that you can always see your original or your transition between your drafts and your updates and your reviews over the history. So you've got that really good history of what's happened with your documents. So, and then we have a register of that history as well. So when it's been updated, it'll have notes, notes as to what was added or what was changed, or if it was just reviewed and, the version updated or whatever. And we can also consult in relation to documents as well. So we can have consultation with others in regards to, changes that may need to be made in these documents as well. So we have that history of everything that sort of happened to our documents along the way. And remembering again, if we have that embedded into one of our templates, then we're always getting that most current document version. The update, you can set the documents for a review. So if you need to review this policy or procedure, we can update the review. So if we decide that we might want to make that an annual review, we can update that review. And again, when we do this, it becomes a task on our dashboard to review that document. We can make edits to our document types, or where that document category might sit. We can make edits along here as well, but that will not change the history and the version, and it will just record that something's changed, and it'll let us know what that is. And we can also assign these to people within either the organisation. So there's that organisation level, so it will only let us assign to other organisational users in order for them to have a task around signing that off. We got any questions yet? Are we good?
Yeah, so Kat, can you go again through the process on how to update a document version?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at, let's say we're going to just look at this policy, the anti-bullying and harassment policy, we can look at this record and we can go directly to signing it off. So if we go to sign off this record, and we say, okay, has the document version been updated? Yes, it has. And so we can go, okay, as of today or last week, let's say it was on the 1st of August, we have updated this document. We can make notes there. Those notes will appear on that register that we were looking at before. And if we add our new version, that will let us upload a new version of that document. So then that will sit, when we do that, that will sit like what is sitting here in this one we looked at. So that task has been signed off at some point for this particular record. And you can see that's the new document, like the updated document, the new version. And you can see when it was uploaded, and then it was obviously set for review for another 12 months and then uploaded again. So does that answer the question? Is there any more questions around that sign-off process? If it came up to a review date, and we were going to sign it off, but there's no new version, so we can just simply click on no, there's no new version, and click on next. Let's see what that will do for us. It still needs to be completed because we've actually reviewed it. We haven't updated it, so we can just review it again in another 12 months or whatever the schedule is. No new update. So that's the type of thing that we can put on there. And if the document is no longer required, so if it's no longer in use in the organisation, we can simply click on this document is no longer required. So that will just stop there being a task for it to be reviewed. It will still be available for you to view, but it's no longer required. So it'll be, I think it's automatically archived if we don't require that document anymore.
Can you edit the version of the document without going through the sign-off process?
I don't believe so. So if I can edit this, but I can't replace a version.
The document.
I can't replace the document in here. I can change, I can probably change this version number.
Yeah.
But even if I change that to custom version number 1, it's still going to be sitting in a, like that history tab, and it will, let's just see what it does. Hold on.
Yeah.
Document category, anti-bullying. Let's leave that all the same, and we'll just change the number, and we'll submit that. And then we'll go to the versions. So it's not adding a new version, but it will tell us that maybe that will take a little while. Edit. It's actually just editing the document record for this attachment. It's not creating a new version. .0. Yeah, it's just changed this number here. Let's just have another look at that. edit that. It's actually not changing the version. This is, so if I change that to number 5, submit that. What it's actually doing is just document. It's still saying it's version 1, but we've changed that custom number.
Yeah, so you
So it's not,
definitely
so
need
that
to go
number,
through
this
the-
version number is only ever going to change if we add a new version to it. So yeah, so this could be the first time we've uploaded it. So that's going to be number 1 in our system, but it might be, you know, the 5th, or, you know, our own records. We might have a document that's, you know, years old, but we're only just started on Safety Champion now. So that's going to show you how many times it was updated in the system itself.
Thank you, Kat.
That's okay. Is there any other questions around documents?
All good.
All good? Great. Insurance. So our insurance module will allow us to manage internal and external insurances. We can manage, you know, contractor registrations, public liability, training, supply agreements, anything that's related to insurance, registrations, those types of things. So our classifications and subclassifications are configurable, so we can make as many different classifications as we like, and then we'll have other information to gather as well. So those classifications, subclassifications are managed in the configuration area. So that morph up area for the administrators in the room is where you would add your classifications for your insurance. It will link to the contractor module. So if your contractors have a requirement for public liability and workers' comp, for instance, or professional indemnity, those types of insurances, we can link that insurance record to the contractor who owns it. So instead of having to sort of decipher what insurance records in the insurance register, you know, are linked to Cat Creek, for instance, we'd be able to go to the contractor and actually then have a look at the links from the contractor side and say, okay, that contractor has a link to they've got public liability, workers' comp. And again, if these records have an expiry date or review date set, it will become a task in our dashboard. So we can add these insurances in, and instead of having to go back to a spreadsheet or working out manually whether our contractors are, you know, within their, have current certificates, we can go straight to that insurance list and or our dashboard in the system for, to make sure that our licenses and registrations and insurances for our contractors and for any other party are up to date and approved. So I will go into the contractor, I'll go into the insurance module. Insurance and registration. I just want to double back for a second into that documents module. I just remembered there was something I forgot to tell you guys. We have a whole range of Safety Champion templates, or a range. In your systems, there'll be more, I believe. And you can copy, you know, some of these things and make them your own. So if there's some documents that you need, you can look through the Safety Champion templates and download a copy for your own records. So if you click on copy for that particular one, that will just dump it into your, you know, our documents list. All right, sorry. I'll go back to insurances and registration. So insurance and registration list, again, like your chemical list, you would build your list here. Again, if we manage this from the organization level, it means that there's one task, and it can be then, you know, allocated down to workplaces where that register needs to be viewed. So there might be particular contractors that work across multiple workplaces. There might and hold insurance records, or there might be registrations or insurances held by, you know, the organization or workplaces So these records can be held at the org if it applies to multiple workplaces, or the workplace itself can create an insurance registration or licensing type record at their level, at their own workplace. So you can see here again, we've got the holder, the category and subcategory. So obviously your categories are linked. So with your category, whatever category you pick, there'll be a whole heap of subcategories that'll fall underneath that. And those are configurable by you guys at the configuration area. You can put your own references in there. We'll have an issue date. If you put an expiry date in there, obviously that's the task that will come up on the dashboard. So some licenses and some, records may not have an expiry date, but we still need to hold those records again in the system. You can obviously attach PDFs into there, and then it will show you where it's allocated, whether it's allocated to an organisation, allocated to a workplace from the organisation, or not allocated at all. So if I look at adding a new insurance or registration, so we would pick out our classification. So if we're looking at insurance, our subclassification will, display whatever you've built in the configuration area. So if we look at public liability, and then we can link it to a contractor, or we can link it to our own organisation, or, put in something custom, like free text, something else. So we'll link it to a contractor, and that will allow us to search our link to contractors. And that should allow us to link it to a contractor in our system. Our reference, you can use, your policy number, your document reference, or any sort of document reference that you need to put in here. Your issue date of the insurance, and your expiry date of the insurance. So you'll note here that the expiry date doesn't have a mandatory requirement, but if it's a task that needs to be updated, like those public liabilities, workers' comp, those types of things, an expiry date will create that task in the system for you. Your description, and if there's any actions that you've got the opportunity to create an action from this register as well. You can, I was going to say, there's custom fields that we can add to the insurance module. So if it's, if we've chosen insurance and public liability, it's wanting to know who the issuer is and what the sum insured is. And if we change this to, let's say, registration, truck registration, it's now going to ask us for a serial number. So you can put custom fields onto these classifications to gather additional data, additional information about that record. So whatever you need to know extra, you can build those custom questions out in the configuration area. You can then upload the certificate of currency, or the document that supports this record, and you can either submit it to sit it on your register, or you can submit it and allocate it to the workplaces that need to be able to view that insurance record. Any questions around insurance and registration?
Yeah, Kat, there is a really good question from Jenny
Yep.
here. I already answered, but I want to know, what do you think? So was the insurance, with the insurance module, is the insurance module the right place for a subcontractor agreement, or should she go to the contractors module instead?
So you could quite easily use, I would use this to do your contractor agreements or supply agreements or anything like that. Absolutely, because they will link to your contractor.
Yeah.
Anyway. So if we look at the other module that links to the contractor is a safety plan as well. So if you've got someone coming into your organization to do some calibrations or something specific within the organization that you also need to make sure is getting done, you might create a safety plan for that maintenance or that servicing requirement that you have. So let's say we have our test and tag done every 12 months, and the contractor that does that task we would have that contractor in our contractor register, but then we could also link that safety plan to that contractor. So we know when that safety plan is coming due, we know the contractor that we need to contact to make sure that they're turning up. And likewise in this insurance module, if we go to contractors just for a minute, when we look at a contractor, let's see if I can find one that's got some records in here. Let's see. We'll try this one. If we view that contractor, we can see all the contacts. So you might have some contractors that have multiple employees that, you know, any day of the week, you know, you don't know who's going to turn up, but you can register all those contacts in under that contractor's details or in that contractor record. And then those links. So this one's workers' compensation, but it could quite easily be, you know, a safety plan there, or it could easily be if you've got your contractor agreement or supply agreement or whatever it might be in that insurance and registration list, you could easily just pick it up here. So like what I said before, when you build your classifications and sub-classifications, you could absolutely just make a classification called contractor agreement, and then you might have, you know, several subcategories sitting under that. So then when you record that record, that will be in this list and you can link it to that particular contractor. Is there any more there, Claudia?
All good. Thank you, Kat.
No worries. Probably one thing I wanted to note around the contractors is that if we manage these contractors at the organisation level, it will be a record that sits there, so managing there. So rather than workplaces having to, each workplace would, you know, if it was managed through a workplace, each workplace that used that contractor would have to, you know, create a new record. So you can see, you know, that contractor might be getting requirements from multiple workplaces in the same organisation to provide their public liability. So you can sort of see why it makes sense to have those managed at that organisation level. I digress. Insurances and registrations. So I think that covers our insurances and registrations. So let's go our risk module. So I had some notes around this because this is not my most strongest suit when it comes to safety champion, or actually not, it's not so much safety champion, it's probably my safety knowledge around risk. So our corporate risk module, or our risk module, is designed to you know, enable an organisation to identify risks where people or equipment or, you know, facilities, those types of things could sort of potentially be damaged or, you know, incur injuries, and having that higher level of being able to look at the potential risks to our organisation and manage and mitigate those. So the risk module is, we've already got the action module, which is where we would report risks or hazards, things that we identify that can be, you know, dealt with and overcome. This module is more for that sort of higher level potential, and so we might put some controls in place to reduce that risk in the organisation. So it's very similar again to sort of our insurances and those types of things, equipment and assets. It's an area where, excuse me, where we're able to build a list of the organizational or that corporate sort of risk items, have them visible to our workplaces if we need to. We also have the ability to make confidential risk items. So if there's particular risks that we need to make sure that they're confidential and just dealt with a specific group of people or, you know, specific team members, we can mark those as confidential, which would restrict them from the register view for others. We can also, so we would manage them centrally. So that's, you know, at that organisation level and allocated down. But there might also be specific risks that for individual workplaces within your organisation. So you're able to, if given permission, you know, create that sort of local risk register as well. You can also assign that risk owners. So, responsible stakeholders would have ownership of that risk. Let's jump in, and you can set your own review of those risks as well. So let's just jump into the risk register, and please yell out, Claudia, if there's someone who's asking a question. Where are we? Risk. Okay. So again, we build this register. We have this risk register where we put everything in. Our categories and subcategories, again, are customizable to your business. And we put in our controls, our review dates, whether it's confidential or not. I've obviously got confidential access here, so that's why I can see that one. And the risk owner. And then we can allocate those, to a workplace or to the organization. And if they're red, they're obviously not allocated. So there's one there. Yeah. So when we add a risk here, obviously you would put in your identified date. The categories and subcategories sit under here. So if we go operational risk, plant and equipment, and then we have put in some custom fields, or there's some placed in here to identify what the risks are. And again, if I change this to safety and to environmental, maybe, let's try something else, machine and plant. That's the sort of the same type of thing. So there's some custom information that can be built into these categories as well. Your reference information, it might be, you might have, specific sort of referencing requirements within your organization, and your title would be something specific. Let's see what this says. Oh yeah, so this is a description in here. Your risk and impact description. So this would be a explanation of the risk that this item, the potential risk description. And then you can, I think these might be custom fields too. So you can put it into so that's our locations and our departments. And then the people at risk could be employees or contractors or visitors. Again, these drop downs are all customizable for your organization. And then we might have some existing procedures in place to minimize or mitigate the risk here. Just go back. You around, Megan? Can you jump in and just maybe add a little bit more for me for corporate risk? That would be great.
Yeah. I think essentially anyone on the line who's dealing with that kind of C-suite executive level where you're reporting on a regular basis on the overall risks to the business, this is almost a lift and shift of the Excel spreadsheet you're potentially working out of. So Kat's running through a lot of that custom field area right there. Just as an example, that can be kind of mapped across as to what you would have currently sitting in your very big spreadsheet at the moment. So this particular module allows that flexibility to pull that information right up and be seen in a very, very clear manner, as opposed to managing a spreadsheet across several different departments on those intervals that you have to work through them. Like Kat said, it's going to link the risk owners as needed. It's kind of going to pull from your HR area if that's who the risk owner is. It can also loop in other people from like a manual entry perspective. But the good thing about it is that we'll give you the current risk, which we call the initial risk, then the current risk after you've done the assessment with your executive, and then you can look at what that kind of residual risk looks like afterwards. We've got customers right now that are using the system to kind of pressure test appetite in the business with some custom values. So it really has a lot of potential to be as big or as kind of granular as you'd like it to be, or just a real drop place for you just to have that oversight across that kind of C-suite, because it will be the areas using it. I think down at the workplace level, you'd be quite mature in your workings of your executive or those kind of corporate risks to be at that level, and allowing that workplace level to manage their own cohort there. But it is a big piece of the safety management system, I know. So if there's anything you kind of want more than just this brief overview that Kat's talking to, please feel free to reach out, because I'm happy to explore that with our customers and kind of work through behind the scenes what it could look like for your organisation.
Thank you. Is there any questions around that?
No, around this topic, Kat.
Yep.
All good. Yeah.
The only other couple of things I was going to add to that, you can refer to your risk matrix in the system. So there's a generic one in there, but if you have your own risk matrix, you can provide that to us and we can upload it. And the other good thing, when Megan was saying about sort of transposing this from your spreadsheet onto here, we can really make those review dates stand alone. So you're not having to, review a whole risk register all at once. You can, set dates for particular items in your own particular, timeframes that need to be reviewed. I think that's, have you got anything more to add, Megan, about the risk register?
No, that's it. I think it's a matter of just trying to figure out what it is you need in-house and getting the custom fields to work for you from that kind of view perspective.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. Plant and equipment. So this will allow you to capture records of your equipment, any sort of equipment or plant that you have within your organization. So it obviously could be, fleet, could be your, IT equipment, access equipment, anything that you can sort of think of that needs to sort of be sitting on a register. Even PPE and things like that as well can be managed through here. So you can capture excuse me, a unique identifier or just the normal sort of everyday colloquial names that you use for ease of reference. Again, you can link the owners. So if it's PPE, you can link that to specific people, employees within your organization. And then you can capture your sort of pricing as well, so that you can sort of plan for equipment spends and things like that. So it's more around managing what we currently have, reviewing. You might have vehicles that are on a lifespan or a schedule for replacement, I think, or computing equipment, that sort of thing, where we like to replace it every 5 years. So those types of equipment can be registered on here and have review dates set, so that we can really keep at front of mind where we're at with our equipment and assets, and work out, what it's going to be costing us going forward and what type of maintenance is being required. So we can always sort of review those things ongoing from this register. So if we look at our equipment and asset register, again, same as those other modules, when it comes to categories and subcategories, it's sort of endless. Just whatever it is that you guys need to be able to list and monitor, that's the limits of what our categories and subcategories would be in this system. So again, we would create our equipment and asset list here, and then we can allocate it to workplaces. And again, the beauty of doing it at that organizational level is that if you've got equipment that's always been used at this particular workplace, but now we've moved it to a different location, or we've done something else, you can simply deallocate something, reallocate to where it needs to be seen at. If those records are held at the workplace and that history behind this equipment is held at the workplace, those records can't be transferred to another workplace. So having the ability to sort of sit it, up a bit higher and allocate it down makes it easier to move equipment and assets around the organisation as well. When we look at the equipment and asset list, you'll see that it's sort of similar to the risk and similar to the contractor, where we or the insurance, I should say, where we have our categories. and depending on what a category we pick will give us a list of subcategories underneath. And again, these drop down lists are configurable so they can really be suited and filled out and built out to suit your organization. The equipment name and reference. So this is where you might put a unique identifier, or, Kat's phone or Megan's laptop or whatever it might be. So, and then the serial number for that piece of equipment could go in here. So your title might be, like your, so that might be Kat's phone. Your reference number might be, iPhone 12, whatever it might be. So that's so that we can export that data and really know, have a lot of detail around our data. You can put in purchase dates, amounts, and then the status as well. We can have in here. So it's reportable. When we export, we can know what pieces of equipment are in use currently, what pieces of equipment might be hired or, lost or sold or whatever. So we can really have a very good understanding of the status of our equipment that we have on our equipment and asset list. You can link it to holders within the organisation or contractors or others or third parties, like a manual entry on there as well. Again, locations can be built out. So if we have, that's a drop pin, but you can actually build out these locations in the configuration as well. So it might belong to the warehouse, or it might belong to the storeroom, or, those type of locations can be built out in the system as well. And then your due date, again, as before, if we're putting a due date into the system for these records, that means that there'll be a task that comes up on your dashboard to sign off these pieces of equipment. So it'll be more around reviewing the equipment and, planning for any updates or major servicing or whatever it might be. Again, if there's a risk assessment required, we are able to upload those files into here. You can refer to your risk matrix. And even these are configurable. So if you've got a more complex risk matrix than what is in here, those drop downs can be matched to your own matrix that you have within your organization. So you can attach your risk assessments, you can put in any other documentation or files, and you can also add photos of your equipment so that you really get you can see exactly what vehicle that is or what piece of equipment that is. And again, you can submit that and allocate it direct to a workplace, or submit it and leave it sitting on, that register at the higher level. Any comments or questions around equipment and asset?
All good, Kat.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any of these modules are easy to export from to. We'll just quickly touch on that just because I'm thinking about it. When we export from our modules, every module is slightly different, but we can go through and create a template. So if you are in a position where you need to report on, equipment or insurances or something periodically, or semi-regularly, or to management or whatever, we can create a template, or you can create a template in your own environment and search on, set your parameters in regards to what is in the system, and filter further on, purchase amounts or dates or, risk assessments or whatever it might be. So if you have got that little slide turned on to create a new template. So if you're running the same report month after month, you can actually create yourself a template. So next time you come in, you would drop that down, that template that you've created for yourself would already be there, and you would just set your date parameters and export it. So just that's a little tip just for anyone who is reporting quite a bit. Most modules have similar reporting functionality. So you can actually create multiple different reports and then have them, just run next month. You'll just come in and run that report again. We will have the ability at some point to automatically run these reports. I'm not entirely sure when that's coming, but it's a feature that I know that the team are working on currently. Equipment assets, what do we got next? So this is around creating, we sort of touched on this already, but creating and then allocating to workplaces. So when we create a record at the organisation level, it allows us to allocate down to either the organisation or workplaces. So depending on what record that we want to create, so if it's a chemical and we're creating those at the organisation level, we then can allocate them down to the workplace to view but not manage. It's great for just ensuring that it takes the work out. So we could actually have a chemical registered at every single workplace, but then that means that you're doing, depending on how many workplaces you have, a lot more work, renewing the same item all the time. So having the ability to list those things at the organisation level and allocating them down to workplaces, just makes people's job a little bit easier. And there is ways that we can, so if I'm in a particular workplace, but I have responsibility to manage those contractors, there's ways in which we can create additional, user access just to manage at that org level, that type of thing. So if that's something, that you're considering, or that's something that, you need this particular person to be able to manage this particular task, speak to one of us around creating a user profile that will enable that, but not enable them to do other things. So, those types of functionality are possible in the system, so that, you can get the most out of the system. Have you got any more questions just before we have a quick break, Claudia?
Well, we have had 2 questions about how to activate some of the modules you have shown. I don't know if that's something you want to cover, because it's part of this configuration side of things.
Absolutely. Do you want to leave it? Actually, maybe we'll just cover it right this minute. So
Sure,
if you don't have access to some of these modules that we're looking at, and you're in you're in the administrative position, so if you're able to morph up, so from your dashboard, if you go to the main menu and go to administration. Now, if you're an administrator, you'll see this morph up level button. If you don't have this button and you believe that you're an administrator, you need to contact, whoever's the administrator within your organisation, to see if you're able to have that level of access, or contact support here if you need to, if you can't sort of find a solution within, your own organisation. So if you do have this orange button that says morph to org level, that's the configuration, that's the administrator level. Usually there's only a couple of people per organisation that have it. So if you don't have it, it's likely that somebody else in a more senior position than you probably does. So you can get them to have a look here. So in this system, if you don't have all the modules, when you're looking at the configuration, there'll be like a blue button here that says, I think it says module configure. Oh, it says something. Can't remember what it says. Do you remember what it says, Claudia?
Sorry, Kat, I missed you there.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to remember what the button says. If you don't have all the all the modules turned on, there'll be a blue button sitting here that will say module.
Oh,
something.
yeah, let me check that one. Yeah.
I can't think what it says. Anyway,
Yeah.
the blue,
Configuration.
what's that?
It's module configuration.
Module configuration, thank you.
Oh, yeah, and
So
it
when
will
you
be
look
blue,
at-
right?
So what will happen if you click on the blue button that says module configuration and you click on it, instead of this sort of coming up, you'll get a box that'll have like a list of modules that aren't activated. So it might be that you don't have your contractor one or your insurance or something like that. So you can simply click on the ones that are there that you need, and then it'll transfer it to the other side of the screen, and then you can activate those modules. So yeah, and if you're having trouble with that, come to support at Safety Champion, or use your support button. That's probably even better, from your resource center. You can contact support straight through your resource center, or even use your resource center to have a bit of a look around your module configuration. And it should be probably safety champion modules. It might well be in there. Yeah. Is there any other questions around that? Is it the people that were having issues with that able to get to that level?
Yeah, all good. We also shared the storyline on how to activate the module. So
Perfect.
yeah, that might be
Perfect.
helpful.
All right. So will we have a break for, I don't know, do we want to come back at 10 past maybe? We've got still a little bit. We'll have 5 minutes now and then we'll come back.
Perfect.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, we'll be back at about 10 past 2. Okay, are we all back?
Ready when you are, Kat.
Excellent. Now, we're going to move into things we engage with. So we're going to talk about the communication module, contractors. Even though we've touched on them, I did just have a look at the chat and saw that maybe we need to have a little bit more look around the contractor module. Data analytics, human resources we're not really going to speak about, but we'll talk about that in relation to communication, the notice board and the site attendance modules. So we'll just jump straight in and go to communication module. So the communication module is a really great module, in my opinion. I actually really like it, to allow you to, communicate with your employees and contractors and third-party people. So what it allows you to do is actually send out hazard alerts or inductions or, updates of policies and procedures or, information to your contractors or those types of things, and have evidence around employees or contractors or third parties actually receiving that information and acknowledging that information. So it's a really good backup to, presenting or inducting someone on site. So physically you might buddy people up or walk around or do that sort of thing, and then you've got that communication or that record with all your content in a document where they've actually acknowledged that they've received it and signed that off. So the communication module, we'll just go back down to the front end of the system. So we'll go to the communication module, and what we do is, so you can sort of imagine in a filing cabinet in the old days, probably not that old days, but you would have your inductions or your policy updates in a file, and you would have physical pieces of paper where people have signed them off and they're just all sitting in a filing cabinet. That's your communication record. So this communication, these folders are what replaces those folders in your filing cabinet. And then within those folders is our templates, which has the content of our communication, and the form, which is our response from our recipient, basically. So when we look at templates, there's a few here, but we can put anything into a template. So you could put a whole heap of content into a template. You can do a whole induction where you've got, excuse me, your employee handbook, your emergency, procedures, your stipulations about, conduct and things like that. They could all go into one particular template. Then you would create a form that's around a declaration, or maybe there's a few questions for the employee to answer. And basically you combine the template and the form in the communication folder and then send it out to your employee or to your contractor or whatever. And then they would receive it by email, have the opportunity to read it, save it, do whatever they like with it, and sign it off. So that's our process for communication. Just jump in. I can't see any questions coming up, but if there are, just jump in as I'm going, if you like, Claudia. So to create a template, you would just click on this plus template button. You would call the template whatever it might be. So let's say we're going to call it policy. Oh, hang on. Update or whatever it might be. And you could put your version or your date or whatever on there. And so you basically get this blank template to add your content in. So as it stands here, you could put text in here. So it could be, welcome to, or you have been issued this communication to provide you, whatever it might be. So that can be the whole heap of text content. Now, if we want to add something else, we can just click on this plus button. So we can add another text box here. And then we might want to add an image, or we might want to embed a video. These videos will be YouTube videos, YouTube URLs that you would upload, or a PDF or a Word doc or an Excel. So they're the image, and you can do some mild formatting as well. So if we want to make that bold and italics and underlined, and we want to make it colored, and we want to make it colored, I don't know why that didn't do that. Maybe it did. And make it bigger. Like you can there's sort of some mild formatting that you can do here. You can add in links to different things here as well. Like make that a link. And then you'll just save that. So I'll go back because I won't create something brand new, but I'll go and show you something. Let's see what this one looks like. Let's see, that might be the one I just did. Hold on. So it might be, so it looks a bit like this. So you've got text, another text box. If you wanted to delete the text box, you can just click on that delete button and it will ask you to confirm that deletion. It doesn't like having empty boxes in there. So if you happen to add two, it would sort of error and say that you need to delete the empty one. So you would just go and highlight the empty one and delete it. You can simply just edit that. So it'll just open back up for you to be able to edit that. And you can embed, that's obviously a YouTube video. And yeah, make all the information that you want into that template. Then when we talk about our forms are more around questionnaires or responses, like so interaction between the recipient and us. So when we send something, those forms will be, so it's sort of like your custom questions anywhere else. You can build different questions into these forms. So to create a form, you would just click on the form, call it declaration, for instance, and then you would start adding, so you might go, that I have read and understood, blah, blah, whatever it might be. Or you might call that a declaration. We'll put the question in here. So we might go, okay, this is going to be a checkbox, or it's going to be a radio button. So I'll just quickly tell you what the difference is between these things. So obviously you've got text and email and telephone number. So they're all fairly self-explanatory. When we get to these ones, the radio button, it's like a checkbox, but you're only able to check one box. So you might have a list of options, 5 different options, and the recipient's only able to tick on one of those. Whereas a checkbox will allow, it's the same deal. There's like 5 check boxes, but your recipient can, tick on all applicable ones to them. Then we've got things like a single select and a multiple select. So that's when there's like an embed. So we can go, let's just quickly do it in here. So it might be a license type. So I've got my license, or I've got my, I don't know, training, whatever it might be. And so then I can go back to license and I can put in, I've got my car license, or I've got my learners, I know my P plates, whatever, provisional license. And then I can go car, I can then expand that again to say I've got my, I don't know, let's call it a vehicle, edit that. We can edit those. Save those changes. And then we're going to go vehicle license. We're going to go just a car license. We're going to go, medium rigid truck license. So you get the idea. Oh, sorry. I can then pull that up and put it into here. Sorry, it goes. So yeah, so you would basically click on the root, the license type, and then it would expand into car or truck or whatever. And so you could expand and expand and expand. You could have like a thread that goes, quite a few steps if you want to. So training might be, they've got their particular, trade licensing or operators licensing, those types of things. So you can just build those questions in. And the single select means that when those options come up, you can then go, okay, I've got my car license and I've got my full, whatever license. And that's the only one that you can select. If it's a multiple select, you can go through that process multiple times. So you could have the same you can sort of have a few different answers from that same question. Hope I explained that okay. Please ask any questions you need to about that, because I feel like that maybe not as clear as it should have been. You can ask other questions. This is where you would put your declaration in. This is where you would put, you know, I've read and understood this, or I've, you know, got this license or that license. So that's your form. And then when we look at, we'll just have a look at a form, see what it looks like. So maybe the SOP completion form. So they're asking, you know, who was the assessor who delivered the training, and please confirm that you understood how to safely use this equipment. So that can be multiple questions, as many as you like, whatever content you want. And then when you come back to the communication register, to be able to create that, we'll go to the company induction folder. So these are all the inductions that have already been sent out. You can see the date they were created, who they were sent to, whether it would come, you know, linked to the HR record or to the contractor record, what template was used, what form was used, and whether there was any optional, mandatory, or non-required responses. And when we look at this column, these colors mean that there was an optional comment, an optional attachment, and optional signature. That's the orange. The grey means that they were not required, a comment, attachment, signature. And the green, when you see the green, that means that it's mandatory. So if we've set up a mandatory signature for an induction, you'll see that that's green. And then the reply button, they're all different as well, because we can set what our reply button says. It doesn't just have to say submit or acknowledge. It can be whatever you want it to be. And then after we've sent these, or when they're in this register, we can see the status of this communication. So we can see that this person, Diane, viewed this communication that was sent to her. This second one was one when we've built it, we haven't finished building it, so it's incomplete. When they're closed, it means that someone's signed it off, so it's finished, it's done. Ready to send, obviously fairly self-explanatory. Sent, and they'll be viewed is the other option. So you'll always be able to see within your communication folders what status the communication that we've sent out has. So when we look at, let's have a look at this one. This is basically what it looks like when it's sent out. So this is the template that we've built. So this is our template content that we were looking at before, or something similar. And so that's all of our information, all of our booklets, whatever. And then here is the response type. So this has been a form that's been attached to this template, requiring their tax file number, super company, whatever, shirt size. And you can see that it was sent on the 25th of the 8th, or the 1st of the 8th, 25, I should say, and viewed the 1st of the 8th. But it hasn't been signed off. So it hasn't been acknowledged, it hasn't been completed by the employee. Is there any questions around that?
No, not yet.
Okay. So if we're going to send out a new induction or a new communication to somebody, we would go to the file that we need to, you know, send that out through. Or we can create, so it's something new, we can create a new folder to start sending new communications through. To send a new folder, it's basically just, you know, what is it called, and our categories and subcategories sitting there. I won't create a new one because I think we've got enough on that list, but it's easy enough to create a new folder sitting there. Actually, let's just create a new one. We'll just call it test, and I'll delete it in a minute so I don't mess up Craig's system too much. So let's call it an induction and submit that. So you'll see that this will just drop straight into this folder for you. So if we go back to the actual communication register, our test one's just sitting there. So I can just go ahead and delete that when I want to, but I'm going to actually view it. It's empty now. I'm going to add a recipient, and I'm going to add it from the human resources file. So if you've got HR records in your system and they've got an email matched against them, that's what will come up in this list. So you can see from this list, there's some email contacts that don't have you know, emails against their HR record. So if you want to use the communication module effectively, we need to have email addresses attached to your HR records. So let's go, is there anyone? Let's go this one because I don't think he is anywhere anymore. So you would select one or multiple people. So if we want to select everybody with a personal email or every business email or both, we can just select everything. And then we will select those people and we'll then attach the template. So it's really sort of important in this stage that we sort of just keep going. If we just went to select, it would come through, as you can see on the behind the screen, it will say it's incomplete. You can continue building it, so it's not a big issue. But if we just build it from here, so you want your templates and your forms set up first and then collate your information. So grab them together into your communication. So we want to do an induction. So we select the new employee induction template and we'll set the response. So this is where I was saying that you can select whether we want a mandatory comment or a, you know, not available, but we want a mandatory signature and we want them to attach their driver's license or something like that. So they won't be able to submit their response through their email until they have signed it and attached something. And then we pick up the form that we've created. So if we've got a new starter form, we'll just select that as well. And this is where I was saying the submit button on the email that they receive will have text in there. So we can go submit. We can change the color of the button if you want to make it pretty. You can change the text on that. So, and then you would just submit that. So now we've got 4 communications ready to go. So I can look at those and see what they look like before I send them. So this is what they're going to receive. And this is their form. Just so happens I picked up the same one that we looked at before. And when I send that out is when you then see that status. So when I look at a completed one, employee induction, and I look at one of these completed ones, you'll be able to see when it was sent, when it was sent, when it was viewed, when it was closed. And he's had a mandatory attachment. So the attachment's in there, the mandatory signature. So the signature's on there, and he's made a comment as well. And these are his responses to the questions that were asked. So any questions around that?
Yes, we got a question, but I'm just trying to find out more information because the question is, will using this feature for induction, so I'm assuming is the communication module, for example, so will using the communication module for inductions require every person within the organization to have a user record?
No, it does not.
Yep.
So as long as they have a HR record with an email against it, or you can even send out to a manual recipient, which would mean that you would have to add their emails in manually. So ideally, your people in your organization would have a HR record in there with an email attached. And the other benefit from having your HR records in the Safety Champion system is that if that person's involved in an incident, then the incident would link there as well. So you're able to use that HR record to link to an incident or to attach to a like a communication to be attached to it as well. So I'll quickly show you in that HR record exactly sort of what I'm talking about. And I know we're not really talking about HR, but it does link here. So when I look at an employee, I can see their employee details. This also really comes into play with the reporting in our system. So the more content you have in regards to your employees, like, you know, date of birth, position, you know, maybe even gender, those types of things. When we're reporting on incidents and actions, or incidents, I should say, it will identify you know, like the group of people that might be most susceptible to, you know, becoming injured, those types of things. So we'd be able to actually really gather some meaningful data around people and how they're getting injured and what's happening and at what stage in their career and what positions and what. So it's really handy to have all of your HR records in the system so that that data can be used to gather that meaningful information for your business. And they can also register your training and licensing, so we can keep those records in there. And then the communication that we've just sent out, that will automatically attach to these records as well. So that's communication. There was something else when we talk about communication, we also have the ability to, if we're sending communications out, we can schedule those now. So when we view this record that we've just sent, we can, select them all and we can bulk schedule. I'm just going to do one so I don't muck that up. Let's just go this one, send. So I can schedule this to whatever time I like, and I can do that for all of them. So I can bulk send and set that schedule around when I want that to be sent. And then there's going to be some new features that are released very shortly, and I think maybe in the next week or so, where if someone hasn't responded to the communication, it's going to be automatic. We'll be able to set up some rules to automatically resend some of this content. So if they haven't signed off their induction or they haven't acknowledged the updated health and safety procedure or whatever it is that we're sending, we can resend that automatically without us having to go in and check. We can just set up parameters that will resend those communication records. And the other new functionality that we'll have is the ability to replicate. So if we've sent let's say it's a manual handling procedure, and we know that we've got to communicate that to our staff every 12 months, we can set up those schedules to send out, like to replicate that manual handling send out to all of our staff periodically. So you could potentially have multiple topics that you need to retrain on or that you need to provide information on, and have them scheduled automatically to resend on your schedule. So those couple of new features will come in soon. So keep an eye on your release notes for those. And the other thing I was going to say, so with your contractors, someone asked in the chat about contractors. When we send a communication to a contractor, so let's just pretend this is a contractor induction. When we send this, so as long as you've got your contractor records updated, so for those contractors that have multiple employees under their banner, just maybe contact them and add the employees into your contractor record. So you can add multiple workers in under that contractor record. And when we look at the contract, if we're going to send a communication to the contractor list, when we look at this list, you'll see here that all employees from this Casey Electrical, so it'll be one contractor record, but it'll have all of those employees on it. So you can then provide this contractor induction to all of those employees. So you don't have to just induct one person or, one person from the contracting company. You can actually list all of those contacts and then send an induction to all of them. Does that answer that question? I know that question was more around they just sort of turn up and we don't know. But if we try and sort of keep up to date with, who's working with those contractors, it might be that we add those in and review them. Yeah.
We just got more information.
Yeah.
So this is about, so obviously all customers have a limit to the amount of workers within the organization.
Yep.
That they have a user profile. So does the limit number also translate to the amount of HR records we can create for our employees? So it's unlimited.
All contracts, so all customer contracts that we would have would be built out, or the contract is based on a user number and a HR number. So likely that your HR records might exceed your user licenses. And if they don't, I would definitely talk to us about including, you know, all of your workers, because all of your workers will then be able to keep those records against their HR. So it's more about sort of, you know, like your compliance, your evidence around things happening that include your people. All your people don't necessarily have to have users. Ideally, it would be great, right? But all of your employees don't necessarily need to be users in order to have, you know, evidence around inductions, training, incidents that they're involved in, any sort of personnel records, those sort of things. They can all be held against their HR record, but they don't necessarily have to have a user license. So that's how the contracts work at the moment. If you think you're out of whack, or if you think you know, like you'd like to increase your HR records, or talk to us about, you know, the users that you've got, or, you know, the options that we have, please reach out to us, because we can definitely have a conversation about trying to get you guys to utilize your system better, more efficiently, more effectively for yourselves. So definitely reach out to our team. Both Megan and I, you know, and the sales team will be able to chat to you about making sure this product is really fitting your organization really well. Yeah. So happy with that, Claudia?
I think so. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
that answered our question. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. All right, let's move on. Contractor, I think we've been through contractor, so I think we'll just keep going over this. So obviously your contractor list allows you to manage the people that you're using within your business, manage their insurances, link the insurances to the contractor, use the insurance module for more than just insurance and registration. Use the communication module to communicate with your contractors. That communication will link to your contractor record, just like they do with the HR. So just like we've looked at. Your safety plans can link back to contractors. If a contractor's injured on site, then that contractor person name will also be able to be you know, included in that injury report. And in plant and equipment, if it's a contractor that's responsible for the maintenance of that plant and equipment, or that, you know, they can be linked to that too, or be listed as an owner to that as well. The only one I missed was the risk. So same deal with risk. So that contractor can be an owner or responsible for that risk item. Notice board. This is sort of cool. I like the notice board. I haven't done much in there. This is a good spot. It sort of almost replicates your physical notice board in your, you know, tea room or wherever your notice board is. And it can be anything from safety to, you know, employee assistance to social club to whatever it might be. And there's ability there to create a form, so questions in there. So you could have feedback from your employees as well. And they're able to see that notice board from their phone. So wherever they are, they can access what's on the notice board. So let's just jump in and show you what that looks like. So we're looking at the notice board module. And again, the notice board module is able to be built out and then shared with your workplaces. So this notice board's sort of been built out a bit. So if we manage that, we can add notice boards, we can edit notice boards in here. So if we let's look at the emergency management one. So in emergency management, this has been created and we've got an evaluation checklist document sitting in there. So let me show you what that looks like. So you can sort of just build out whatever topics that you want, and we can just click on that and brings up this document. I'm not sure why that one's in there, but it is. Ergonomics. So there's information in here. Human resources, first aid. So if you sort of get the drill, that's sort of limited only to your imagination that you can do. So if we go HR and we're looking at forms, then for some of smaller businesses, you could use this as a way for the employees to notify you that they want to have a day off or whatever. So you could set up this. So this has just been set up through the customized questions. Reason for leave, and they're putting check boxes there. Dates, days taken, manage it. So it's a notification to someone. And then your contacts, so you can put contacts in here. So I know as an employer, I know who I need to speak to if I need to speak to someone about a HR related something or other. Is there any questions around the notice board? I'd really encourage everyone to jump in there and have a play around because, as I said before, it's really, you could set up your Christmas party and ask for people's feedback, or, give them a list of options where we think we might go or the dates that we might have, and they can use that form to feedback information to you guys. So it doesn't just have to be for safety. It doesn't just have to be for, work stuff. You can really utilize the notice board for sort of anything that you want. So these ones, like if there's first aid out of stock, or if there's, something that needs to be done, you just notify somebody. You know what? Also create an action, right, for that sort of stuff as well. But you can use the notice board for some bits and pieces as well. Notice board, what else have we got? Site attendance, just mindful of time. I thought I'd be finished in an hour. I was really quite surprised myself. So site attendance is, I don't know whether who's using site attendance or not, but if you've got sites where you need to record contractor attendance, even employee attendance, those types of things, we can build out, sorry, Claudia?
Oh, no, sorry, that's all right. Someone is asking if you can show the site attendance module around, which is your next one.
Yeah.
They really want to know about the, just the new feature we have or enhancement we have with the kiosk, but that's for tablet only. So I'm just gonna share the storyline while you go around the site attendance.
Yeah. You might have to step in a minute if I don't cover this properly. So our site registers, we can create site registers for, so let's say I've got, a business with 3 different sites. I might display a QR code for each of those sites, so when someone arrives, they would scan that QR code. It does make them download the app the very first time that they sign in. So sometimes that's an issue with clients, and in which case we would suggest that they have a kiosk, which might be an iPad or something sitting there that's locked out, and they can only sign register their attendance on site. So basically what it is that we create forms for different types of visitors. So we might have a contractor form for arrival and leaving. We might have an employee form for arrival and one for when they leave. We might have other type of visitor type arrival form. So like if we're talking about contractors, there might be something specific that we need the contractor to read or to respond to or to write down, like what tasks are they doing, who are they visiting, what time do they expect to be here. That type of information can be built out in a form, and then we create that site register. So when we're looking at forms, we'll just have a quick look at the contractor arrive form, and we view this. We might edit that. You can see here, so we're calling it the arrive form for the contractor, and you can see these are the things that we want to know: what time they're on site, time arrive, site contact, what's the purpose, all those sorts of things. And then the induction itself has information around health and safety when they're on site, and there might be a little video that they need to watch and an ending. So that's their form. So it can be as built out or as concise as you want it to be, depending on the type of people that you got visiting. It might be just welcome, be safe, see you later, that type of really simple, just in order for us to know who's there. So that is how the forms are built, and these custom field setups are questions that you create. So you can create as many or as few as you like. Now it's already automatically going to ask who they are, what their phone number is, and what their email address is. So we don't have to include that on the custom field. And then basically what you do is go, okay, I'm going to set up a new register for a particular site. So we're going to go, we'll just go this Collingwood site attendance. And we've set this up, so we call it the Collingwood site attendance. It's a store in Australia. These drop downs again are customizable. So depending on what you want to categorize them, you can just put them, build that out how you like it. This email confirmation, so if we turn that on, when a visitor arrives and they sign in, they're going to receive an email, which is basically proof of their registration of when they've arrived on site. So if someone stops them in the middle of the factory, they can go, oh, here, yeah, I did sign in. Here's my info. A PIN may be required if, let's say it's like an area where, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of security built around it, or there's, you only really want specific people to be able to register. You might set a PIN and then let that PIN be known to the people that are frequenting that site. We don't really have that many people using that I'm aware of. I don't really have any customers using that at all. And then we can also set geo boundaries as well. So by using an address, you can set a geo boundary, like let's say it's 200 meters. If someone is leaving, they will get a notification to say, oh, hey, Kat, you've left the premises. Do you want to sign out? And the same, if I'm a regular contractor and then I arrive, it's going to recognize me arriving to the site and say, hey, do you want to sign in? So that sort of can be a handy little reminder for people. And then you would just build out these forms as you need. You would add, when you add the form, you can add or take off, whoever you want. So I can deselect or select the types of visitor that we're going to have. And then for each type of visitor, you'll see here, there's the employee form details, contractor form details, visitor form details, contractor first visitor. And so that's where that comes from. And then you would just select the the form that you want them to fill out when they arrive and the one that you want them to fill out when they leave. And that basically builds your site attendance record. Now, when you allocate those records to the actual workplace, so when we allocate that down to Melbourne, and we then use that, so if I go to Melbourne, my site register at Melbourne, so if I'm a Melbourne workplace person, I would go to site attendance and I would locals, hang on, go back. Sorry. I would look at my register. So that's the Collingwood register that I want. And then I have the opportunity to arrive and leave. So then I would just go through that. So this is what your kiosk would look like. It would be locked out. Someone would arrive and that's what it would look like. So I'm just a visitor. I go next, so it's just going to record all the stuff. Is there any questions around site attendance module? Did you want to elaborate, Claudia, on the kiosk setup or?
Well, I just shared the walkthrough because it's gonna work for tablet only, like the new setup we have built, but it's pretty much to make life easier for people for customers who had that kiosk in the, let's say, the entrance of the facility. So just with putting the QR code, it will be much easier for them now. And we have improved the search feature as well. So let's say that I'm entering the facility and then I'm signing out. Then if you have entered my name or my email address, which includes my name, then just typing Claudia will bring up all the options. So it will be easier now signing out people.
Awesome.
It's hard to explain without showing, but hopefully it will make life easier for everyone.
Yep. And that's a new feature that I obviously haven't seen.
Yeah, and it's already working, but it's just the improvement has been built in the mobile version specifically for tablets. Yeah,
Excellent.
Because this is to improve the experience of a kiosk for those customers who had someone at the entrance of the facility.
Yeah. Awesome. We're nearly done. I think the last thing that we had to speak about is our data analytics. Sorry.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
This is a really good one from Jenny. So this is a general question. So just a general question with setting up categories and subcategories and custom fields within each module. Is there some sort of recommended general setup that we can follow?
There's not really. It's more likely to be your organization sort of specific stuff. That with our generic set, we've really tried to get like a real general type of setup. So a lot of businesses, especially smaller businesses, find that they really don't need to change much in the configuration at all. But depending on what your organization requirements are, you can definitely go and change a few things in configuration. I want everyone to be really mindful though, and it's a good platform to just make everyone aware that there's certain things that you just need to be aware of. If there's areas that are locked, like got padlocks on them, that is really your, are you sure you want to unlock that message? Perhaps you should check with someone before you unlock that. We always want to work in this organization profile, managing the organization profile. So you can get it here, organized profile through that hyperlink, or from here and manage that. So we manage that profile. You'll notice that there's no locks on any of this configuration. The other thing to be really aware of is if you're going to change category lists and text and things in here, if you've got, like, for instance, these action category lists, it's likely that there's already data attached to some of these categories. So if you were to just delete hazard report and then go, oh, oops, I didn't mean to do that, it's not going to recognize it as the same. So you're going to, on your reporting, you're going to have two lots of hazard reports. So be very mindful not to go and delete things that are blue. You can go into that and change, your terminology if you want to call it corrective actions instead of hazard report or whatever it might be, but change it there. Don't delete it and reinstate it. Just be very mindful of not really deleting anything here. If it's black, it's just text. So if you want to call that hazard module or, corrective actions or whatever, this here, the worker level button's what appears on their phone. And so any lists that you've created, just be mindful that if you delete it, there could well be data against it. So I'm not saying don't modify your stuff, but just be mindful of content that's already created in your system. And if you need to make changes and you're not sure, reach out to us for more support around that. With your classification list, so for equipment and assets, for instance, in here in your profile, you can sort of go, okay, we've got all these things, but you might want to add something else separate. You would add in your category here and then set up your subcategory. So it's fairly self-explanatory. When you get in there, you can just add a new classification. Because some of yours, like some may have some of this content. This has obviously been modified by people in our team. So yours may not look exactly the same, but it may also look similar and be okay. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. So quickly, I think we're going to go over time just a little bit because there's a couple of things I just need to mention. So our data analytics, our reporting modules are really great to gain insights into what's happening within your organization. So if we look at, we've got two lots of reporting. One's the data analytics. If you've got data analytics, it takes data from all time. And so it will reflect a little bit differently than what the reporting module will, because the reporting module takes from the last 12 months. So your data might read a little bit differently and you might have to modify your searches or your filters in the reporting module. But what it does, it allows you to see stats. So this is obviously all time. We can still set filters in here as well, but it allows you to break down the years into months or quarters or whatever. So you can dive into these tables and graphs and really see additional data or get more granular with your data, you can click on, like first aid incidents, and it will change the rest of your graphs to reflect what, it might just take a minute, but reflect, who those first aid injuries happen to. The percentages will all change. Just notice how those graphs have changed, those tables have changed. It will also allow you, if you've got your HR module built out and with all detail in it, it will allow you to see who are the people that are getting injured. Are they getting injured at the start of their career or later on in their career? Are they male or female? Are they, how old are these people that are getting injured, and what type of injuries are happening? So it can give you some really good insight into where you need to focus your safety programs or your training, or even if there needs to be money spent on things. It can give you a bit more insight into, okay, we really need to look at our mobile plant. So like here we go, okay, we need to look at our mobile plant incidents because they seem to be higher. It always slips, trips and falls are huge, right? But if you're looking at risk categories, it might be completely different. So if you go, okay, all our high risk incidents, where are they? Hospitalizations, if we go here, it's going to change these graphs down. And then, so when you're looking at these tables, you'll be able to see different trends. This is obviously just dummy data all in here, so but yours might change a little bit. So it's just a good way to sort of play around, try and find where your injuries and incidents are happening, and then you can decide as an organisation where to focus resources into improving safety in your industry. So that's just a quick data analytics and reporting, but I would absolutely suggest just get in there and have a play around with it and see what you can find. Configuration, we've been through a little bit. If you really feel like you need to deep dive into that, please reach out to us here through support or to your account manager and request some additional training or some support with those sorts of things. If you want to reassess how your users and your HR requirements, we can discuss those with you as well. What else was I going to say about that? We've got quite a few different packages for support and ongoing training. So you can buy blocks of time with us and spend them how you need. Really gives you that support to really maximize your usage of the system for yourselves. I think we'll skip over these. These are all just, we've sort of gone through all these things during our time today. So I'm just going to skim over. Again, if you need to, have a little bit more information or a bit more of a deep dive into anything, especially if someone's come into a role and is new for Safety Champion, it would be definitely advisable for you guys to reach out and get a little bit more support or training to help you maximize your usage of the system as well. Again, we have a whole heap of, that's one thing I didn't tell you, our resource center in the system. So when you go to this question mark up here, there's a whole heap of new resources in here. So Claudia and the support team have built in what we call story lane videos. So they're actually practical step-by-step through Safety Champion to help you through modules and different functionality that you may need. So depending on what level you're at, will allow you to look at different things, how to do different things in the system. So jump into there. Check out the release notes. We've got releases happening fairly regularly now. So we've always got improving something. The other thing we suggest is that you contact support with anything that you are having trouble with, or if you think you're identifying a bug or that you want to leave some feedback for us, you can send that through to us direct through the system as well. What else have we got? Our BootChamps, which is what we're doing today, and there'll be masterclasses with some of the experts throughout our industry on specific topics. And the other things that we are planning on doing is bringing office hours, so like more of a drop-in session so people can ask questions relating to what they need to know. So that's something that Megan and I with the customer success team will initiate soon. So look out for those as well. And support and training packages. So, you know, it's really great to be able to book time with someone and work with someone exclusively. So reach out. Those blocks can be, you know, provided to you, you know, virtually mostly, and we can just help you with anything that you need within your organization. And I guess the last thing I'd love for you to do is scan this QR code, because we love a QR code, and leave some feedback about today's session. I really appreciate everyone coming, and I know we're off to a bit of a tricky start, but I think we had a fairly successful day. So I really appreciate everybody's time. So if you've got time to, you know, leave some feedback, that would be great. And if there's any last minute questions, feel free to ask them now.
The last thing I want you to show us, Kat, is can you show us how to submit a support request?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No worries. So I touched on it briefly. Let's just go back to home. So you will find a quick link to support requests. If you go to the main menu here, down the bottom, so it's in your resource center up there too, but here you've got support or feedback. So you can, if you've got a bug or you're having difficulty with something or you need some help, you can submit a support request here. When you click on the support request, the form has been updated fairly recently, so we can gather more data. So if you want help with a bug, something that you think's not working properly, you can put the description in there, your name, upload a file. If you can do a screen recording, great, and upload it there, and just, you know, explain to us what, you know, what sort of impact it's having, whether it's affecting you or others, and what you've done to try and troubleshoot it so far. So whether you've cleared your cache, restarted, updated your app, done whatever, just explain to us what you've done. So then when it gets submitted and lands on support's desk, then the support team already know, you know, rather than coming back to you and say, can you please turn it on and off? Can you please clear your cache? You've done these things already, so we can really be a lot more proactive in getting to the bottom of your, you know, any issues that you might be having. And likewise, where's my session gone now? The feedback is really good. So we do go to our customers all the time for our improvements and our new releases. So most of the things that are happening in the system is due to feedback that we've received from clients. So please be confident in providing feedback to us about stuff that you want to see in the future, because that's where we will get our ideas from you guys that are on the other side of this webinar today. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon and the rest of the week, and we'll catch up soon.